I already gave, where I've uploaded my consciousness, and my personality is indistinguishable from the one that lived in my human body. Now you put that side by side with an AI personality who's under observation is also indistinguishable from a conventional human being.
Right.
Now, are they the same thing now?
No, they're not.
Test the claim.
So OpenAI is up and coming company, and they recently
humane AI.
Humane AI.
Right.
They've announced their consumer product, a device, a wearable product. It's a little badge, and it's powered by AI. So there's a conversational interface, and it is it's got a projection. Light projection for a visual user interface.
Was it like augmented reality kind of thing?
Or kind of like you can project onto a surface.
I see. Okay.
And it's so you can speak to it, touch it, to interact with it, and it's got a camera on. So you've got this thing stuck on you with a camera on. And a couple of years ago, do you remember Google Glass?
Yeah.
And that got pretty bad backlash. People got attacked in the street for wearing this headgear. With
the newest, the Ray-Ban, is it? I think it's Google. Is it powered by Google? I'm not sure.
Okay, they're trying it again.
Yeah, it's a process. They're not giving up on it. But that what you just described reminds me of another movie called Her by with Joaquin Phoenix.
That's a fun one.
And Scarlett Johansson is the voice of the AI companion.
Yeah.
Or the whatever it is, the AI assistant.
Right.
Again, you watch it, and I'm convinced that there are already companies that are developing AI girlfriends.
Yep, there are. Yep.
Yeah. So,
AI girlfriends and AI buddies that are based on celebrities to have a pretend friendship.
This is a real thing.
Yep.
And it's going to be
quite compelling.
Yeah, it's going to be more and more compelling the further the technology develops.
Yeah. So
it actually fills me with a great deal of sadness because these things fill a gap where real human relationships don't exist.
Why? Is it the lack of human connection that is?
I think that's what drives it.
Driving it, and also there's a feedback loop. If people are further separated from each other, from the need to connect.
An echo chamber is an incredibly seductive thing, and it's very easy to be lulled into an environment or a relationship where you're being told more often than not that you're great and that you're saying all the right things.
Yeah, an echo chamber that's algorithmically tuned to be appealing.
In fact, where you can almost, it's almost impossible to say the wrong thing.
Right.
As far as AI is, because I'm sure they can be programmed to be somewhat contrary, but on the whole, people want to be around others who think like them. And so
people who they're comfortable with and who have comfort with them.
How you doing, young man?
You recording?
Yeah.
No, you can.
Anytime. No, doesn't matter. Yeah, so we're talking about, to an extent, AI transhumanism. So the idea that humanity could use technology that may potentially end up taking us beyond what we understand it to be a human being, by almost like a merger between humanity and technology. And we began discussing at what point you cease to be a human being. For example, in the case where one might upload one's own consciousness and wake up with a mechanical body, just as an example. So first of all, is your humanity dependent on the body in which your consciousness lives, and whether it's organic or mechanical? And if, from your own perception, your thinking is the same, you're the same person, do you continue to be a human being, even in the eyes of others who think otherwise, perhaps? And should the rights that are afforded to human beings, as we categorize them now, be afforded to those, let's say, in this example, whose consciousness has been uploaded and whose personal experience is that they are still them? So it's like it's a very
It's very deep.
Yeah.
Very deep.
Yeah.
And you can see layers of diversity.
come into the
You can see layers of diversity. In the very simple, it's quite interesting. It's quite interesting. But even though, let's say AI is out of the subject, people have lost their humanity in many different circumstances historically, with or without AI. So the question is, what is humanity? The essence of this humanity is. What are the boundaries? What are the parameters?
Right.
What are the baseline?
I mean, even the example
Agreement.
I gave you, it's not. Of course, we have AI in the background in terms of the current global discussion.
Yeah.
But in this example, which I gave you, is purely a human being's consciousness, digitized, uploaded, and then switched on. Now in a mechanical body.
Yeah.
Does that person still retain their humanity? Or we're discussing the criteria by which you could claim yes or no.
Okay.
But then the conversation developed. Now, let's say, again, in this very topical discussion, AI is developing exponentially, as we know. There will come a point where AI's interactions with us will be indistinguishable from my interaction with you.
Yeah.
Now, let's say in that situation that I already gave, where I've uploaded my consciousness, and my personality is indistinguishable from the one that lived in my human body. Now, you put that side by side with an AI personality, who's under observation is also indistinguishable from a conventional human being.
That's right.
Now, are they the same thing now?
No, they're not.
They're different. But you upon observation, you cannot distinguish them.
Yes. Still not the same.
Okay.
Yeah. So, for example, I'm sorry, what was your input? Sorry.
I don't remember what part of this discussion we're
So this particular, the part in particular
so
I've just described is where you have
uploaded person.
artificial intelligence that is indistinguishable from human intelligence.
Yes.
And then you have an uploaded human intelligence, which is indistinguishable from its previous organic form.
Right.
And you put them side by side and they are indistinguishable. First of all, is there a difference? Do they have the same value now? If one has rights, should the other one have rights? Should the one, let's say if the human consciousness that's been uploaded is indistinguishable from the artificial intelligence, and even they're able to have a conversation, they can't tell each other apart. Do you then extend those rights to the artificial intelligence and say, it's just intelligence now?
It's awesome.
It's a difficult,
yeah.
but these are questions that humanity will probably have to answer at some point in the future.
Absolutely, yes, absolutely.
And I think it's better we be prepared for it than saying, oh, we have these things now, what do we do with them?
Yeah, absolutely. I totally agree with that. Very interesting conversation. Yeah.
So we were just kind of throwing ideas around.
Yeah. That's interesting.
So this is this idea that we can merge with technology or enhance ourselves beyond what we understand to be a human being is encompassed, I guess, in the discussion of transhumanism. So it's that the point at which it becomes unclear whether something has gone beyond humanity or even the express intention to go beyond it. And there are like philosophical works in the past that have discussed this to a great extent. And I would even go, predictably, I would even refer back to Zarathustra, from whom Nietzsche, and we discussed this earlier, Nietzsche got the idea of the Übermensch.
Right.
The man who will surpass the average man. Now, whether that's in a moral sense, as Zarathustra may have been discussing, I suspect it is. So you will have men amongst humanity who will rise beyond the average, who will be capable of making moral decisions without the challenge of their humanity holding them back. But in this sense, we're talking about people from within humanity transcending what it is to be a human being through the adoption of technologies. And when we talk about technology, I'm even talking about if this is an idea that you accept, for example, the adoption of fire by primitive man, let's say. The utilization of fire for cooking, for protection, for warming oneself, for example. There are people now who are talking about transhumanism and the adoption of technology as fundamental as early man domesticating fire, as the next catalyst or the catalyst for the next step in his evolution. So
But the question is, fundamentally, for simple minds like myself, I would say something that is organic and something that is genetically modified. As a preference, a lot of us is going back to organic. So, for example, if I love fish and you give me a freshwater organic fish and you reproduce an AI fish, now, and I'm selling you that fish, Cyrus, which one would you go for?
I would.
And you use the word indistinguishable, meaning to say you cannot distinguish one from the other. So I'm asking you, would you go for the organic or would you go for the AI fish?
Now, the answer probably seems obvious. However, you have to also look at the benefits of, for example, not plundering the seas of fish, of not putting a living being through the suffering of suffocation, being plucked out of its natural habitat and put on a plate.
Yeah, but it was made for that.
Yeah, that would be the view from one particular ideological standpoint. But I'm saying if you could create nutritionally the same product just through extruders on a food printer without those additional stages that I mentioned, so this would probably be an argument that a vegan would employ. I don't think, but what I'm saying is I would still probably go for the organic fish. But I'm saying there will be people who will have a preference for the one that doesn't involve fishing, catching, killing, and so on.
Right.
That will not be an obvious choice for everybody. It will not be a very easy
yes,
choice.
it's a diverse conversation everywhere you go,
Yeah.
in every spectrum of it. But even though I was looking at some experiments online, and they were saying that AI created a fish, and they put these fish among other fishes.
Right.
They created a fish, and the artificial fish, AI fish, killed at all the other fishes. It was an experiment.
Yeah.
I'm sorry I didn't send you because I probably send you too much of stuff anyhow.
No, don't worry. No,
But the point what I'm trying to say is that there is a nature that is predictable, that there's always a desire for power, and power has a nature to consume lesser power. Greater power has a nature to consume lesser power. So even though if we were to go through the imagination or predictability of having organic as opposed to AI, I think naturalists, people like myself, we will always prefer the organic. But also there are consequences of AI. AI have consequences. So there's a convenience, human convenience to its side. But AI does not exist without consequences. And very often, we don't speak about the consequences. But AI has consequences, huge consequences, human consequences. You know, and as we know, way back in the day, before so much of technology was available, human interaction was more. Social skills were better.
Yeah.
So sometimes when you bring one thing on the table, you move away another, and you lose another.
Yeah. Well, we're saying an industry that's receiving quite a bit of development now is AI companionship, AI girlfriends, boyfriends, friends.
Based on celebrities.
Based on celebrities or just artificially generated
your fantasy
people.
personality.
For those who, for example, are maybe somewhat socially awkward or whatever, they have, let's say, social anxiety, but they want companionship, and so they adopt AI companions. This does happen and is increasing in popularity. But the very sad reality of it is that this technology has a place because people are not making real connections with other human beings.
And not just human beings, chromosomes. So as you already know, that there are studies being conducted that the human being, when he come in contact with the soil, the earth, the chromosomes, it becomes therapeutic for him. And when human beings plant and they do agriculture and they're in touch with nature, it even helps reverse dementia. Right.
Grounding, right?
Yes, that's part
Coming
of it.
in touch with the Earth's electromagnetic field. And all
So
this.
that's part of it. But also they were doing some tests as well, looking at people who have early stages of dementia,
Right.
and they put them to live on nature farm into families, and they made tremendous amount of progress. And these people they didn't know if they had families or not. They couldn't remember. The dementia reached a real high state. And they start believing that the people who they were living on farms were their families. And that reversed the dementia. But the downside to it, they start believing these people were actually their families.
Right.
But what they were doing, they were planting gardens, they were reaping, they went through all the different processes. And it's interesting also, I was looking at some Japanese and Korean expert samurai warriors.
Right.
And when they have mastered all the physical art of fighting, they take them away before they graduate, away from that, and teach them to make tea, and to serve, and to plant. And they plant things that are very difficult, and they plant things that requires a lot of care. And that's a kind of counterbalance. Right. So I'm simply saying, we have AI, yes, but there's a connection to nature. And every time, like for example, you look at prior to big city life. So we look at urban lifestyle. Prior to urban lifestyle bring tremendous amount of complexities and problems for family life and human life. Gang culture, urban lifestyle. Now, if you look at farm lifestyle as opposed to urban lifestyle, every time you bring these new modern phenomena, technology, modernization, it always have consequences to it. So, and a lot of times when things go wrong, what do? We want to go back to when things was right. And when we go back to the organic lifestyle, the family life lifestyle, the farming lifestyle, it solves hundreds of problems. So yes, we're going to embrace AI and technology and all the different things. But however, when we start experience problems that are so difficult, the only we're going to reset the button and go right back to organic lifestyle, family life.
You know how Zarathustra said you acquire your place in the Garden of Paradise? You plant it.
Plant it.
That's what you do. Yeah, you plant your garden.
Yeah.
You create your garden. You build your garden.
Yeah.
That's what the word paradise comes from. It's an enclosed garden.
Yeah.
And he was saying, go out and cultivate the land.
Yeah.
Go and find a barren piece of land and bring life to it. That's how you reach paradise.
Yeah. And it's interesting to talk about cultivation because there's a Quranic verse that talks about mankind purposes. So as a whole, the Quran talks about different purposes we have. And the most important, the dominant purpose, is that man was created to know his Lord, to know his Lord. And when he know his Lord, he should enslave himself to his Lord. Right. Now, there's another part of Quran that talks about man was also created to cultivate. So there's that. But my point is this: when people come away from its purpose, if you take anything away from its purpose, what happens?
It loses direction, I suppose.
There's consequences.
Yeah.
Right. So if something have a specific, all right, for example, you have a mic on you, right? There's a purpose for that.
Yeah.
So if I use it for a purpose that is not for that, if I use it as a tea to stir my tea, what happened?
You'll damage it.
Right. So anything
and no one will hear what you're saying.
So when things go out of purpose, they become out of order. So my thing, when humanity comes out of their divine purpose, they go out of order. That's my argument.
Right.
But the cultivation, The
As in
Quran
they cease to function in the way, in the manner
was
that
built
it should.
for.
Right.
It was built for. So everything have an inbuilt purpose,
Right. Right.
a purpose.
I got you.
So let's say government was there to help us be more organized and to articulate justice between us. But whenever that purpose gets distorted, disorder comes. That's my argument. And one of the things the Quran says is one of the purposes of man is to cultivate, to produce, and to be productive. And when we take away from our purpose, we get disorder. So that's my contribution from a very simplistic, a simple-minded person.
Not at all.
Yeah, that's my
You're a very deep
contribution.
thinker. Don't do yourself an injustice.
All right, gentlemen, I'm going to make my rounds now. Thank you so much.
Thank you for the.
And Cyrus, I hope I can catch up with you before you leave.
Yeah,
Please.
definitely.
Very good conversation, man.
Thanks for
Thought-provoking.
Thank you for joining in.
Yeah, thank you.